2017 is home to many different events that are good for gaming. I mean, the Nintendo Switch came out rolling with its console/handheld hybrid. The year gamers say no to loot boxes, which in the end fucked EA so hard, cause let's be real, EA sucks dick. But there's not moments I want to talk about. I want to highlight the best games that came out in 2017. Even though there's a top 10, these games are in no particular order since they are also good in my eyes. This is also my opinion, so keep that in mind. But before I start the list, here are my 3 honorable mentions. Now, I haven't finished this game, but I've gotten balls deep into it. The game is vast and is very breathtaking. You take control of Aloy, a hunter in this post-apocalyptic rendition of Earth where machines have gone Skynet on all humans on the Earth. Your role is to figure out what is the cause of these machines acting all haywire and disable the source. That seems very simple, but the game has so much to do and that you stray away from the main story. It's like playing The Witcher 3 all over again since you get so easily distracted with side quests. The game also challenges the player when it comes to fighting the machines. It stresses a slow yet methodical method on killing enemies as you need to carefully aim at their weak spots to give them the most damage. Reason why it's not on my top 10 is due to the fact that I had too many games to choose from to make it into the list, and sadly this game got left out. But at least it makes it in my honorable mentions, so that's something. When I first heard the rumors that Ubisoft was making a crossover game of Mario, I was either thinking Rayman or Rabbids. But instead we got the latter, and let me tell you, I wasn't too thrilled until E3 came of course, which convinced me to buy the game. The fact that the creator put his heart and soul into the game shows that he cares about the fans, and the gameplay shows it. The game in a nutshell is a strategy RPG in the likes of Final Fantasy Tactics, but with a bit of a comedic twist with the Rabbids. And here I am thinking that the Rabbids are dead because Ubisoft milked them to hell, but this game kind of restores me a bit. The game surprisingly has a lot of depth when it comes to developing a strategy, and how to level up your character of course. Just because the game looks like a cartoon doesn't mean it's easy. The game can get difficult in terms of making you want to rip your hair out. So plan accordingly and make sure your turns are efficient. God, this is why I miss strategy games. Being efficient with your turns, and this game forces you to be efficient. Now I'm going to get a lot of flack for this due to the fact that this series has polarized the entire gaming community. Some people think the flaws outweigh the good stuff, while you have the people that say it's a good series even look past the flaws. I'm on the latter end of that spectrum in the sake of this argument. The Evil Within one caught me with this Resident Evil 4-like gameplay, but with more horror elements added to it. Once I heard that Bethesda is making a sequel, you bet your ass that I was throwing money on the screen. A Halloween release date to fit with the whole horror feeling of it? Sign me up for that. This game ties up loose ends with Sebastian's family situation since now we know where his daughter and wife are at essentially. However, the only reason this is a runner-up is because the game still hasn't tied up Ruvik's side of the story. This bothers me a lot since Ruvik is still out there in Sebastian's world, and who knows what he can do to cause madness. But that's just my take on the game. Now let's head on to the top 10. I haven't played a Yakuza game since I missed out on it since its PS2 days. But once I heard that the first game is getting a remake on the PS4 with remake graphics, I decided to jump into that proverbial rabbit hole. Once I hit start, I was immediately hooked with the story. The fact that Kiryu's life went downhill after his friend murdered the head of the Dojima family and taking the blame for it got me so enraged yet hooked at the same time. Plus, not to mention, the plot relevant characters are fleshed out and full of personality, ranging from the hard-boiled cop to the flamboyant psychopaths. The fighting mechanics in this game are easy to pick up for anyone to play because it reminds me of many beat-em-up games I played before. So many moves you can do to take down an enemy that each have their own satisfying finishing move. Yakuza is a perfect example of why single-player experiences are not dead yet, contrary to what some game journalists say. Samus is back, baby, and with a fresh new look on the classic retelling of a Game Boy classic. Once again, Nintendo hires an outside developer to handle their beloved franchise, and that developer is the Spanish studio Mercury Steam. These guys did a good job in reimagining Samus' adventure in SR388, the Metroid homeworld. And of course, with the reimaginings come with new skills. Skills like Samus' melee counterattack can help Samus parry enemies and deal critical damage to them. New to the game is the Aeon abilities, which is exclusive to SR388. Don't quote me on that please. Which makes exploration a lot easier to handle. The Scan Pulse, for example, is a move which Samus uses to scan the environment around her to find hidden passageways and items, which is very useful than relying on dots in the map. Fast travel is included in this game, which make backtracking less of a headache, which is good news for everyone. This is a fresh take on 2D Metroid games that you cannot avoid as a gamer, almost rivaling Symphony of the Night. Shit, I don't think this is going to bode well with Metroidvania fanboys. On to the next game! What happens when you take a 50s cartoon model in the style of a classic Disney show, Felix the Cat and so on, Contra's run and gun gaming, the difficulty of a SNES game, what do you get? Cuphead is what you get. When I saw the first E3 trailer, I was easily amused because it took me back as a kid watching Boomerang after school to shows like Tom and Jerry, classic Hanna-Barbera, so it's nice that a game is being made in the same style as those cartoons that I grew up watching. In this game, you play as a titular character Cuphead and his brother Mugman if you're playing with 2 players of course, and they got themselves in a tight situation with the devil. I mean, it is said in the intro once you first boot up the game. Going along with the intro, the music in this game is perfect with its jazz instruments which adds to the whole 50s feel. I am a sucker for this, and it would be nice if I could track down official volume for this game's soundtrack. The gameplay itself is very difficult, but it's very rewarding once you complete a level. It's fast-paced, running gunning action is very satisfying to the likes of Contra. You won't believe the amount of times I died on bosses, just due to the fact that I was making some boneheaded mistakes or something that I didn't caught that I could easily avoid. I gotta tell you, some of these levels are really difficult to get like an A ranking in because they're so strict on what they want you to do. Oh, you gotta parry this many times, you gotta kill this amount of enemies, oh you gotta do this, so many stuff you gotta do to get the A ranking, but it's all worth it in the end to stroke your gamer ego. Look out people, Resident Evil's back and the future's looking bright for the franchise. That I thought was going downhill at first. Something you just gotta bring the game back to its roots just to showcase what made the game good in the first place. For Resident Evil, it is ditching the action-based gameplay for a horror one. The one big change is making the game a first-person shooter, but it's not your typical first-person shooter. The game was made with VR in mind, hence why the game is in first person. I haven't tried out the VR portion of the game myself, but the gameplay itself is brought to a snail's pace just to add tension into your experience. Walking around the baker's house until something pops out to scare the shit out of you. Now, I don't get scared easily, but there were moments that made me quite jumpy than a kid with ADHD who hasn't taken their Ritalin. Not to mention, this game has a lot of replay value once you are done with the game. There are collectibles, bonus weapons, and cheats when you beat the game on the harder difficulties, and the DLC this game gets to tack onto the storyline that closes many of the holes this game has. Plus an added bonus, Chris motherfucking Redfield's in the game. Sorry Leon fans, but I prefer Resi 1 over Resi 2. Get at me! Now, I never heard of Yoko Taro, let alone the Drakengard series, until I saw the tease that was revealed in E3. I noticed this game is getting a lot of buzz, and I didn't know why. So I took it to the internet to learn what kind of a series Nier is, and whoa boy, this rabbit hole is deep. Basically, Drakengard has multiple endings, and one of those multiple endings leads to the original Nier, which also has multiple endings. Nier Automata is a result of those endings in the original game. But honestly, that didn't interest me about the game. It was the fact that it was being developed by Platinum Games, and I know they make quality games. Well, most of them. Nier Automata takes place thousands of years after the original year, in which you control 2B, an android of the Yorha group, tasked with defeating aliens in order to reclaim Earth back to the humans. That's just a story on the outside, but this game has many different story arcs that lead to multiple endings. In order to get those endings, you need to play the game multiple times until you get to the true ending. The game is mostly comprised of a hack and slash game, but it does dabble with different genres like shoot 'em ups. This game took me on a roller coaster ride of emotions that made me feel many different ways. And that is something I don't feel from games a lot. There were moments where I had to put down the controller down just to take in the moments that happen in the game. But what the hell, don't listen to me praising the game, just get the damn game and play it for yourself. Let me get this out the way so I can piss people off now than later. I loathe golf. It's too boring and was for me to give a rat's ass about it. Now that we have that hot take out the way, Golf Story is not your typical golf game. It is a golf game on the surface, but it has RPG elements to it. A level up system to help you with your drive distance, add a little bit of curve to your shot and stuff like that. I went into this game thinking that this would be a typical golf game, but I was actually impressed with this presentation. The game has a decent story to boot that can at least keep me engaged, but the game shows up with this gameplay. So many ways you can fine tune your shots in order to make that perfect drive. Stuff like precision shots, arc shots to take advantage of the wind, and even the types of clubs you can use to maneuver around the course. Plus, anywhere in the game you can just tee up and just smack the ball anywhere you like. You can even hit NPCs with a line drive to their face and they won't barely complain. If you have a Nintendo Switch, you should get this game since it's very cheap on the eShop. Nintendo's on a roll when it comes to putting out Fire Emblem games. I mean, just in the past half decade, we got a total of 5 Fire Emblem games and spin-offs. That number also includes Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia, a remake of the sequel to the first Fire Emblem game that came out on the NES, and technically a sequel to the Shadow Dragon, if we want to be petty about that. Going into this game, I haven't seen any gameplay trailers nor any story trailers to keep my first run of this game as fresh as possible. I went to the game thinking that it was going to be taking elements from Fire Emblem Fates, but I was completely wrong. First off, in order to preserve the story, they kept the original character instead of creating your own avatar to insert into the story. This eliminates the waifu wars altogether. Sorry guys, I don't follow trends all too well. However, I do miss playing eugenics with the characters in the game in order to get the best child for your playthrough, but this eliminated half of the roster of characters due to the fact that the children are much better than the parents. Echoes ditches dad with a more direct approach to his story rather than mixed with the gene pool. In turn, I was more invested into the story than ever before, following Alm and Celica as they try to fight their way through the opposing empire. Battles require a lot more thinking since there is no form of para system in this game. That I don't mind, I like a little challenge in my game. In relation to what I said in Resident Evil 7, this game also goes back to its roots in order to show what made the series famous in the first place. For Fire Emblem, that is the storytelling and its difficult combat. It's a breath of fresh air compared to the past couple of Fire Emblem games. By no means I am bashing them because they are excellent games in their own regards, but sometimes you just need to cut back on all the madness in order to bring the fans back to Earth, or Valentia in this case. The split pathways between Alm and Celica brings perspective to the story, culminating into one big finale and my god, this game got me with this story. I suggest you pick up this game and play it. Nintendo has been hitting it out the park with the Switch in 2017. The Switch basically attracted many gamers to his new hardware. It attracted this poor sucker here too. To start off the console's life cycle, Nintendo gave us The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a game that changed many of the formulas we were used to in the past 3D Zelda games, going from a linear experience to a more open world, choose your destination type of game. I never thought I could experience Hyrule on such a grand scale for me. When you first step out of the place where Link was resting and take a gander at the horizon, you know you are in for a big adventure. I swear, most of this game I spend around most of the time walking around Hyrule and taking in every little facet of nature and locales around me. I think that's what prevented me from finishing the game in the first place. However, I have all the H and B's, don't criticize me too hard. This is why I don't play games like Skyrim, because I get absorbed in the world too much and I won't get to the other games I have in my backlog. This game I always go back to just to see what else I can find in this post-destruction world. The gameplay has been changed up too, as Link can hold multiple weapons in this game, ranging from spears, swords, boomerangs, and it's not like you're limited to them. You can switch them out in the middle of combat if you want to. Also, there's a mirror this cook can get me all excited because of that thrill of making something new in the game you haven't cooked yet. Also, the collectibles are massive. We're talking about 999 Korok seeds in total to collect, and a lot of spirit orbs to boost up your stamina bar and hearts, and you can find them in no particular order to your heart's content. Plus, the graphics in this game look so gorgeous, not in a realistic sense, but an eye-candy sense. I honestly would like another Zelda game like this. Hey Anuma-san, make this the golden standard for Zelda games now. You hear me? The fans are speaking. Listen to them. Once again, here I am with another Nintendo Switch game. Nintendo, what are you doing? I got other games to play and you want me to do another collectathon? Honestly just blew Super Mario Galaxy out of the water in terms of my favorite 3D Mario game. It's like a combination of Super Mario 64 and Galaxy and just add a ton of content and replay value to it. You can possess enemies like Goombas. You heard fucking Goombas. And not to mention a T-Rex. Damn bro, I thought you were extinct, but you are just here for my convenience in order to possess? I'll take that. The levels are so bright and full of color and you can interact with almost anything in the environment. The jumping in this game is tighter than ever before. It's like my platforming has improved a lot when playing this game. Don't forget the huge amount of post content you have to do in this game, because once you complete the game the first time, you're not completely done with the game. No, that's what you're wrong at first. The true ending is obtained when you collect a certain amount of moons, and finding these moons are so fun to get. Like stack up Goombas with Mario at the helm to attract a female Goomba, race Koopa the Quick yet again, and of course, nuts. You can take that statement however you like it. The many levels you're thrown to have a lot of personality with citizens to match the world. You can go from a jungle to a cooking world, and of course New Donk City, which has the best music sequence ever. Speaking of music, there are so many moments when I was whistling to the tune of the music. I would love to get the official soundtrack to these games. This is one of those musics that I would like to hear on the go. Oh, and before you say anything, my favorite soundtrack is the Wooded Kingdom. I even whistle when I'm at work. My point is, if you don't have a Switch, what are you waiting for? An emulator that's only going to run the game at 50% only? Get a Switch and play it on the go. And no, this video is not sponsored by Nintendo. As a huge RPG fan, I was part of the niche group of people who was waiting for Persona 5's release. I wouldn't call it niche anymore since now it's getting popular, which is good for the series. To sum this game up, you play as a high schooler who gets transferred to another school due to being put on probation by a corrupt politician. As a result, your main character has some deep animosity towards that politician, and he wants to figure out who ruined his life. This is where the palace come into play, a world created by a person's inner desires ranging from a horny gym teacher to an avaricious mafia leader. You go down to the whole spectrum of villains in this game, and you are not alone in this journey. Along with your friends, your characters are armed with personas, a person's soul manifests into physical form. With these personas, the heroes use them to take on shadows and many other demons in the palace. This game does a good job on being in your face. So many things just pop out, the action, the story, hell even the menus and the UI standouts. It's like the developers want your attention for the whole ride. A roller coaster of emotions in this storyline that can take you aback and shock to the shit that happens in this game. going from extortion, pedophilia, hell even blackmailing to a degree, and what makes this worse is that this happens in real life. Not to hyperbolic standards compared to Persona, but you get the idea. Don't even get me started about the music. Persona 3 has a more metal approach to its music, while Persona 4 has a pop rock flavor to it, but Persona 5 is just pure acid jazz, and I'm a big fan of acid jazz. Hell, I am even using songs from Persona 5 as background music in this video. Can you guess which song it is? Overall, as a complete game, Persona 5 gets my seal of approval for the best RPG of 2017, and it's never too late to get into the Persona series. This game can be your starting point. Is there any game that didn't make the list? Comment down below with your reasons why. Got any ideas for another top 10? Drop that below too. But besides all that, this is Juggernaut signing out, and see you in the next video.